Okay.
Okay. Close chat there. Oh. All right, we're just going to wait another quick minute, give other people a chance to file in, and then I'll get started with my final presentation for the evening. I will say now, though, thank you to everybody for coming, especially given that it is getting pretty late. So thank you for choosing me to be your final first block presentation for the night. Okay, yeah, it looks like we have a decent amount of people, so I'll get started for everybody here. So, like I said, again, thank you so much for choosing me to be your final Block 1 presentation for the night. For those of you who may not know, my name is Justin Montana. I hope everybody had the opportunity to take a look at my page on the Final Render website, but if not, I'll be giving a brief overview of my project. So my project for the senior showcase is something called Opened Mind. Opened Mind is a digital mindfulness tool that will help people with their various kinds of stress through pattern recognition as well as through physical documentation. So with Open Mind, it has the ability to connect to things like Apple Watches, Fitbits, even something like a solar chest band. Different things with Bluetooth connectivity that can monitor your heart rate. Using those kinds of tools, Opened Mind is able to recognize when your body is undergoing stress through its heightened heart rate. With that, it can then send you a push notification letting you know when you're undergoing this stress in the moment. So that way you can get rid of any of the guesswork from after the fact when everything is calming down and you can't quite remember. Once you have that, you'll have the opportunity to undergo a quick, simple, keyword-based check-in that will be able to cover different forms of stress in the moment, whether it be the place itself or the people in it, as well as giving you the opportunity to put in additional notes if you want to go more in depth on the matter. So once you have that, Opened Mind will document everything that you put in, and as you continue to work with it, it will be able to notice patterns, whether it be in the keywords or just in the things you type. And with that, it can notify you again, and it can help you find the patterns in what's causing your stress, because what a lot of people don't realize, because in the moment they're too stressed to really realize, is that everybody has some kind of pattern in what causes their stress, whether it be a certain kind of location, a certain type of person, or even like the colors of the wall or the sounds that come out of a place. As such, once you have those patterns like out in the open, in the air, and you can visually see them, you can use them as preemptive tools going forward. This kind of application works best when put hand in hand with professional help, whether it be therapy or already existing mindfulness meditative services. But with these in mind, it gives you the ability to have some kind of foothold, some kind of talking point to look into and go forward. So with all that in mind, I'll be sharing my screen in just a moment to show you, due to the time constraints as well as the current service restraints, I did not have the opportunity to put together a full application. However, I do have a wireframe that I can show all of you in terms of kind of the basic idea of the process. So hopefully everybody can see my screen at the moment. So this is the screen that you start out being able to see, and it just kind of reminds the user that, well, Opened Mind is definitely a very good tool to have in your fight for better mindfulness. It is no substitution for actual professional help, and instead is something that should empower you going through that process. So you go in, it has a very simple baseline home screen. You can use that to sync your heart rate to whatever tool you're using, and it can show you your heart rate in real time. This is just a simple mock-up to show how that might look. And once your heart rate does go above the stress levels, you can put in what your baseline heart rate will be. And once it goes above that, it will send you a notification, or you can manually do a check-in. I will be doing that through the manual means because this has been giving me a little bit of trouble tonight. So this is just a small sampling of the different kinds of keywords that would be in the full product. So something like constant sound, no sound, the kind of sounds you would hear, the kind of space you're in, how many or how little people are there, so on and so forth. You would be able to select as many as you'd want, as you can see here. And once you do that, you would have the option to put in additional notes, and you can put in notes. For example, subway was late, people were pushy. So you would be able to put in that kind of note, you'd be able to submit it, and then you can go in and check the history of this kind of thing. So you would be able to see the approximate date and time where the moment of stress occurred. You'd be able to see whatever keywords you put in or phrases, as well as any kind of additional note you may have put. And in the case, for example, here, there are two distinct examples of constant sound being a point of stress. OpenedMind would inform the user via a push notification, and with that, they would be able to see that this is something that has, at this point, regularly caused them stress. And once they have that information, they would be able to work alongside a therapist or a mindfulness service to figure out ways to preemptively work to reduce the amount of stress that causes. So that is the primary overview and showcase of the OpenedMind, how it works and what it does. So I will now open up the floor to any questions, comments, or concerns that the audience has.
Hey, Justin. First of all, really great job with this.
Thank you.
I came in a little, I came in a little bit late, but from what I'm getting at, this is sort of acting like a diary, and so, not only in the aspect of like jotting everything down, but it's also like a sort of self-reflection. Am I getting that part correct?
Yes, it definitely does have aspects of a kind of digital journal, although this one does have the unique aspect that it can be kind of spurred on automatically via the kind of physical means, as I mentioned, the increased heart rate kind of thing. So like with the average kind of journal or diary, that is entirely based around the user having desire to do that. But with OpenedMind, due to the fact that it can be spurred on via like the physical signs of stress via increased heart rate, it also has the aspect of pushing that along, because a lot of the times in the moment when people are doing those kind of diary entries after the fact, if it's just them working with their active memory, they might not think of that moment as something worthy of noting down. But when you have the kind of physical data alongside it, it puts it more at the forefront of your mind. So yes, it is very much reminiscent of like a digital diary, but it's a digital diary that has like certain guidelines or certain like flags for when it should be documented in.
Hey, I gotcha. Have you considered, probably as a future step, have you considered looking into like the neuroscience behind it? Sort of, since it's a relatively new field, like seeing if there's any neuroimaging data that you can use that can sort of also spur this as well, as a sort of a redundancy or a backup to the heart rate.
That's a very good question. I have looked into that because one of the big initial thoughts behind OpenedMind was that it is important to document the physical signs of stress alongside the mental and emotional aspects of stress. So things like the neuroscience have been considered, but one of the big points of it, like you said, the neuroscience part of it is still a more recent aspect. And one of the big parts about why heart rate was such an easy part to add in is that there are a lot of commercial products that just have that as an ancillary point in them. Like I mentioned, something like the Apple Watch, which has 1,000,001 different things it can do. So rather than needing some form of proprietary hardware that would do that, it can sync up with something that the average person probably already has. So
I see.
while it would definitely be great to be able to mark down the neuroscience aspects of it, that would definitely, at this point in time, excuse me, sorry, I need a drink of water for a moment.
All good.
But at the moment, that would require some form of proprietary hardware that I personally, at this moment, do not have the skill set to build. But that is a very good question. And it's something that, should this get off the ground into a physical thing, will definitely be considered in the future.
Yeah, because I really do think that you have something going on over here because not a lot of us are really open and honest with ourselves. In that we're kind of at least from a mental health aspect, we're kind of if we sometimes feel like the world is out to get us, we kind of hunker down, and we're not really ready to confront our demons. So I think this is a really good aspect, and it's sort of because we really need that self reflection, just because it sort of freezes in the end, and and it just I see, as the name implies, it really opens our mind. So I really do hope that you go ahead, that you still continue with this, because you really got something over here, especially in our time.
Thank you.
So yeah, well, I'm gonna go check out the other ones, but congratulations, great job, and good luck with everything.
Thank you. It was good to see you again, Gabby.
Good to see you too.
All right. So yeah, there were some very good points put there. So yeah, there was a lot of answering there and a lot of very good points. So I've kind of given my primary overview. Does anybody else have any questions or comments they'd like to give?
I got one more for you, Just, especially with what he mentioned in terms of the objectivity of the data coming in, and people, you don't really have a choice. The data is going to be honest. Have you ever thought about kind of expanding this to targeting researchers and maybe them using this longitudinally on like some long-term studies? People out living their lives and collecting data on what their stressors are and whatnot, just as another market to kind of look into?
I admittedly have not. I've put thought into some of the more non-commercial aspects. I actually mentioned in an earlier iteration of this talk that I had spoken to some people in the academic field as well as the psychiatric field about using this tool as an aid, but that was more, again, similar in terms of the psychiatric aid. So it was like a therapist recommending this to be used alongside their regular appointments, or like a student advisor recommending it to a student to figure out what aspects of their classes may increase or decrease their stress, that kind of thing. I have not thought about like an actual academic study using this kind of tool for that, but that is a very interesting point you've put forth.
Yeah, it's just like if you know somebody has a specific psychological condition, and you kind of monitor a bunch of people with the same condition as they're living their lives, and they can be alerted of a stressor and then mark exactly what's happening, we might be able to get some greater insight into their condition.
Yeah, I hadn't put thought of it used in that way, but that is certainly a good way to use this kind of tool. So that's something that will definitely be considered if this is able to make it out into a more finalized form.
Cool.
Hi, Justin. I had a question. So over time, I would imagine people may want to track, how they've managed the stress, or how, that what their data has said over years, perhaps. So what vehicle or what way would people be able to capture, kind of their report out of themselves and see how it's progressed over the years? Is it, would they be able to download some of the data, or would there be some type of reporting function?
Well, as previously mentioned when showing the application, it does record the instances where the stress increases, as well as the different reasons why in terms of the keywords and the more in-depth notes that are given. In terms of showing the progress, as of right now in its current form, that would mostly be in if it does not activate as much, that means that your stress levels are not reaching the highs that would warrant needing to document it. So this is, admittedly, it's one of those tools where if the less you need to use it, the better off you are, because if you are reaching the point where you're able to handle your stress in those situations that would normally react it, it means that the opened mind has done its job and has given you the tools you need to prepare for those instances. So it's one of those things where the less it activates, the more you know that it's done its job. All right, so I'll use this quick lull to say I am reaching the end of my time, so I will once again thank everybody here for coming to hear my final talk for the night, and I will also take this opportunity to advertise in the next couple of minutes, we'll be having our next set of presenters, and just everybody this year has done so many amazing things, and we've been able to do so much with the current situation, with everybody being stuck at home with limited resources and everything. Just, I would highly recommend going back into our website, looking to see what people are presenting next over this next hour and giving them a look. Just everybody has been doing so many amazing things, and it would mean a lot to both me and them if you would give them even a few minutes of your time. I need another drink of water, my apologies. All right, so now that we're winding down, does anybody have any final kind of comments, questions, concerns that they would like to bring up?
I think you killed it, Jess. This is a widely applicable, really interesting idea that, especially right now while everybody's locked up at home, could have awesome implications. So this is awesome.
This is one of the few times where it kind of very much lined up in my favor. So
yeah, it really did.
If this is able to get off the ground, given the current situation, it'll probably, hopefully, if it's able to come up in some way, shape, or form, I imagine it would help a decent amount of people.
Great job, Justin.
Thank you.
All right.
Well done.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess that's kind of the end of the primary portion. I'll be sticking around for a little bit longer. So if anybody has anything else they want to say, or even just stick around and chat for a little bit once the presentation officially ends, I'll be stopping my recording at the moment. So you'll hear that in a